8:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on in to Nashville's Morning News, along with Johnny B, Ken Weaver as well. I'm Dan Mandis, and man, there's just so much today, and it's all courtesy of the people, the rich men north of Richmond. Actually, there's a lot to discuss, and in the previous hour we were talking a lot about the audio that's out there today. You've got Mayorkas, Alejandro Mayorkas, and Josh Hawley going back and forth on a number of different issues. And so Hawley, I thought this was one of the better exchanges. I haven't played this yet this morning. But Josh Hawley is questioning Alejandro Mayorkas about a particular person within his agency who is decidedly, clearly anti-Semitic. Listen to this.
What about people who say things like, on October the 7th, F Israel, I'm cleaning up the language here, F Israel, the government and its military, are you ready for your downfall? People who say things like F Israel and any Jew who supports Israel. May your conscience haunt your dreams until your last breath. Palestine will be free one day. F apartheid Israel and is any Israeli. This is pretty extreme rhetoric, don't you think?
Yep.
Senator, I do, and I think there is a distinction between espousing or endorsing terrorist ideology and speech that is odious, that does not rise to that level.
Fair enough. This person works for you.
Oh, yeah. Person does work for him. And so for the next, I don't know, it's got to be 7-8 minutes, Josh Hawley spends trying to get Alejandro Mayorkas to, one, admit that this is awful speech. That's number one. And number two, explain why this person has not been fired. Now, I do understand that a lot of folks, including, by the way, yours truly, who makes his living off of free speech, we all do have free speech. And so I suppose that there is a legit conversation, a legit question to be had as to whether or not this person should be making their living off of we the people, taxpayers. Part of this conversation, and I don't have time to play it all. Its show has run away this morning, and I don't have a lot of time left. But one of the questions that Josh Hawley asked is, okay, so you got these students that are here on visas, college students that are here on visas, and they are out there protesting Israel, pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas, paragliders are their new Facebook emoji and all this other kind of stuff. And so Hawley is asking the question, you've got these folks that are here, and they are out on college campuses, Harvard, Yale, some of these other, Cornell is out there as well. And they are decidedly, clearly anti-Israel and basically advocating for the annihilation of Jews. Should they be sent back to where they came from? Should we revoke those visas? I'm actually going to ask that question of the super text line. Now, there's some debate over whether or not it is the law, and this is what they were going back and forth on. There's some debate over whether or not we can legally do that, revoke someone's visa because they come out as, pro-Hamas and pro-annihilation of the Jews. Should we, and this is what Hawley was saying, should we deport them? Should we revoke their visas and send them back to where they came from? Because after all, one of the things that makes America great is our freedom of speech. So let me know what you think on the super text line, 615-737-9986. And as far as this employee that works for Alejandro Mayorkas, who was, posting and saying some of these things on social media, and this woman was outed. And she had, memes and photos up and so forth of, paragliders and very anti-Israel stuff. And yes, this woman does work for Alejandro Mayorkas, and he's not doing anything about it.
This is Nuja Ali, an employee of the Department of Homeland Security, who posted these comments on October the 7th. That's not all she posted. She also posted this graphic. Now, this is a fake graphic, I want to be clear, but I think we understand it. This is a paraglider, a Hamas paraglider, depicted here with a machine gun flying into Israel. She posted it under her online alias with the celebratory Free Palestine. Mr. Secretary, what's going on here? Is this typical of people who work at DHS? This is an asylum and immigration officer who is posting these, frankly, pro-genocidal slogans and images on the day that Israelis are being slaughtered in their beds. What have you done about this?
He has done nothing about this. And that is the point of this audio. And that's the point of, all of the conversation between Josh Hawley and Alejandro Mayorkas is he's not done anything about it. And I guess part of the question is it Mayorkas' job? And I'm not standing up for Mayorkas, but I am free speech to the core. It is embedded in my DNA because that's what I do for a living. And I respect free speech. And I also, by the way, respect others who, have the ability to show the world how absolutely horrendous their views are. And so if this is what was it, Aji Ali, whatever the heck her name was, if this is her opinion, and if she wants to expose herself to the world as an anti-Semite who supports the murder and the annihilation of Jews, okay, well, then that is, her prerogative to post those kinds of things. I don't necessarily know if there's anything illegal about what she posted. Is it horrendous? Absolutely, it's horrendous. But it is her right to free speech. I find it abhorrent that, my taxpayer dollars are paying for her salary. I hate that. And I hate that, Alejandro Mayorkas, I don't necessarily know if it's his job to police, the people that works for him and their social media. It's not surprising, by the way, that she feels this way because of the way the Biden administration is right now. But, the other thing that I would say is that it doesn't seem like Mayorkas is upset with what one of his employees posted. Instead, he starts yelling back at Josh Hawley and seemingly defending this woman. And by the way, here's the other thing that I find interesting is you got some of these people that are posting these kinds of abhorrent things. But they're doing it under, as Hawley said, her online alias, whatever the heck it was. You know what? If she is so proud of her views, well, then don't do it under an alias. That's the whole thing about keyboard warriors, right? Is that you post these things, they email things, and they say things that are horrendous on social media, and they do it under an alias as opposed to utilizing their own name. Dan Matt is here and playing this audio between Josh Hawley and Alejandro Mayorkas. And I think it really tells you how I think a lot of folks are frustrated with the Biden administration because Hawley is asking about one of the employees of Alejandro Mayorkas and what it is that this employee stands for. And this employee tweeted out, again, posted on social media, some really abhorrent things about Israel. And basically saying that she was okay with the annihilation and the destruction of Jews. And so Mayorkas, he's just doesn't really seem to care, even though Hawley is going after him and saying, is this emblematic of what's happening inside of your administration?
Yes.
4 things I'd like to say to you.
I got 4 things to say to you.
Number one, your question to suggest that that is emblematic of the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security is despicable.
I'm sorry. What have you done? This person works for the Department of Homeland Security. Have you fired her?
That was one of 4 answers.
Have you fired her?
One.
Have you fired her? Don't come to this hearing room when Israel has been invaded and Jewish students are barricaded in libraries in this country and cannot be escorted out because they are threatened for their lives. You have employees who are celebrating genocide, and you are saying it's despicable for me to ask the question? Has she been fired?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Secretary.
After the consumption of Senator Hawley's time, I'd like to speak.
Has she been fired?
Because I will
We
not
would like
be,
an answer. Would you?
because I will not be given the opportunity.
Has she been fired?
So that individual has been placed on administrative leave.
So she's not been fired.
Number 2.
Why has she not been fired?
Number 2, the individual was hired in 2019.
Why has she not been
Number
fired?
3, I cannot speak to an ongoing personnel matter.
Why has this person not been fired? Your answer is you can't speak to it? This isn't sufficient to fire her?
I am not in a position to speak to an ongoing personnel matter.
This isn't sufficient to fire her? That's what you're telling me?
That is not what I'm saying.
But she's still on your payroll as we sit here today.
That is not what I'm saying.
She's still on your payroll as we sit here today.
Senator?
How many cases? She was an asylum and immigration officer. How many cases did she adjudicate?
Senator, I'm not in a position to speak about an ongoing personnel.
I'm not asking about that. I'm asking you how many cases she adjudicated.
He has no idea.
My answer remains.
So, you know,
Wow. What answer?
there really was no answer.
That is telling about this guy. That right
Well,
there.
yeah, and this is something that, Mayorkas, he's known for this, of course. I mean, he's always been known
Never has
for
an answer.
the
Or
non-answer.
He can't discuss it.
No, he can't.
What a joke.
Well, and he, at the end of, and I'm going to play the audio. I don't have time to play the audio now, but I'm going to play it probably after the traffic and all this. Because he gets really sanctimonious, Alejandro Mayorkas does. He gets all sanctimonious because he says, well, I'm the son of a Holocaust survivor.
Oh, okay.
But here's the thing. You can't use that as a shield for your inaction.
That has nothing to do with what Josh Hawley is asking.
Nope. He just wants to know, does somebody like that have any, is there any ramifications? And I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem is that can you fire someone for their own? This is what the problem is. Can you fire someone for their own personal social media posts within the federal government? And I don't know what the answer to that question is. I believe that some companies have certain policies and they monitor your Facebook. I really don't know. But again, as somebody who is what I would say is a First Amendment warrior, I understand the issues involved. And by the way, I did ask the question. Oh boy. I did ask the question, a couple of questions. And that was, okay, so if you're a student here and you're on a visa and you join these protests where you're basically calling for the annihilation of Israel, should those people have their visas revoked and sent back to, where they came from? I say yes. From a moral standpoint, absolutely. Now, as it comes from a legal standpoint, that's one of those things that, as Mayorkas said, this is something that is, it's the best way to put this. This is a legal interpretation, but at least for me, I think they should be booted. And I do believe, by the way, that when someone, and this is my own personal position, I don't know if I can go down this road, actually, because I'm a supervisor here. Well, it has not come up, but let me put it another way. I would be understanding if I were in charge if I owned a company, let's do it this way.
Okay.
If I owned a company and one of my employees posted something abhorrent like that, then I would absolutely figure out a legal way to get rid of them. If I owned a company and I was allowed to do that, because that is a representation of my company. But again, it's on their own personal Facebook, and I don't know what the laws are, so on and so forth. But anyway.
Yeah. It was his comeback that is what is maddening.
Yeah.
Not accepting responsibility for his department. That is what is maddening about it.
Well, there's a lot
Trying
of things.
to deflect what Josh Hawley was asking.
Well, that's what he always does, though, is that, he reflects,
Deflects.
What's that?
Deflects.
Deflects. Thank you, Ken. He deflects. And, but, again, he's known for that. He simply refuses to answer the questions. Okay, 8:22. Ken, what's coming up in the news is 8:30.
Well, coming up, we've got a state of emergency in Kentucky after part of a coal plant collapsed. There have been 2.2 million people stuck in Gaza since Hamas murdered those 1,400 innocent Israelis, while now it looks like the border crossing with Egypt has opened up. And Williamson County schools considering a way to address the bus driver shortage and improve service times, but it may mean parents have to figure out a way to get kids to school. Details at 8:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
370 brings up a great point. What if this person was posting about a black person or black people? They would be fired as a racist. And so there's a lot of people that are pointing out on the super text line that consistency should be part of the conversation. 8:23.